Hello and welcome to LSO's podcast, or if you're watching this on video, Ed and I can wave you a hello. This is Barbara Zoccoli, Executive Director of Lincoln Symphony Orchestra, and today I'm talking with Maestro Edward Polochick about our upcoming season. Ed, we are so excited about this season. We have 7 classical concerts, 2 pops concerts, and 2 family concerts. And I want to start out by just asking you, and I know that you could talk for an hour just on this question, but what piece or a couple of pieces, are you the most excited about for next season? What's special and close to your heart that's on this?
Oh gosh, I was afraid you were going to pose that question to me because right off the top of my head, what I'd have to say is what I find so incredibly exciting about the season is the totality of the season.
Mm.
It incorporates some of the greatest of what you call the chestnuts, the standard repertory in the symphonic literature, along with some amazing new pieces by composers living and very much composing for not just the medium, but for the artists that they're going to be performing them. So, I mean, if we're opening, for example, with a program that includes Tchaikovsky Symphony Number 6, the Pathétique. Oh my gosh! I mean, what greater huge romantic piece is there? And it's a piece that we haven't done in well over a decade. Mozart Prague Symphony, Bizet Carmen Suite, Rimsky-Korsakov Capriccio Espagnol. These are all tour de forces for the orchestra. Wagner Prelude and Liebestod, which I haven't done in years there, and I've never done out in Lincoln, Nebraska. One of my absolute favorite tone poems by Richard Strauss, Death and Transfiguration, a piece when he was, I don't know, 23, 24 years old, wrote this amazing tone poem. But there's also French literature, the Debussy La Mer, the Ravel left-hand concerto, and of course, one of the greatest, Brahms Symphony Number 4 and his Piano Concerto Number 2. I mean, how do I choose? I feel like Sophie's Choice all of a sudden.
So, long story short, you don't have a favorite. Everything is your favorite.
Everything is my favorite. There you go. There you
Um,
go.
Ed, as you're programming the season, you talked about some of the classical and romantic, the great pieces. Is it important to you to try to make sure that you have something from different eras included on the season?
It's true that classical music and composition, like most things in life, are always in cycles, and you get periods of great intensity of composition in a certain era, and then maybe several years that there's kind of a transition, and so it goes. I think
But
it's not.
certain composers, focus on chamber music or on the piano literature or whatever. And so there's these eras where great orchestral pieces come out.
Come out. And I've been so well versed, you might say, in the Baroque and the classical periods, that they are kind of the bedrock for all the periods which followed. So to have the opportunity, for example, to do Mozart Prague, along with Strauss's Death and Transfiguration or Debussy La Mer, it's not just eras, it's also kind of the ethnicities of them, the nationalities whether it be French or German or Russian or Austrian, etc. The world of composition and of great compositions is endless. It's boundless. And I always try to get a mix of both the not just the nationalities of the various composers, but also the actual periods from
Throughout
Baroque to.
time. I think of your job as a museum curator,
Yeah.
and you're creating this journey as we go throughout the season. And for anyone who wants to actually look at that journey and look kind of as it lays out in time to look at what's programmed on what, you can go to lincolnsymphony.com and
Mhm.
look at the season. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more broadly, though. I think one of the most exciting parts of your job must be getting to know incredible artists as musicians, as humans, as collaborators. And so I want you to talk just a little bit about who will be joining the orchestra on stage next season.
Well, let me begin by saying it's always a special kind of opportunity or privilege for me to be able to have an orchestra which contains so many incredible performing artists, both ensemble artists and soloists. And every year we've been featuring numbers of our principals or our third chair players, as we did this past season. I think that it's very important to demonstrate to our community just the level of talent that we have in our orchestra. And it's also great for each of these musicians to come center stage
Mm.
and show off their talents. This year, we're featuring our amazing principal clarinetist, Diane Barger. And once again, we have the most phenomenal concertmaster in the entire universe. And I'm happy to say that Anton and I will be collaborating on Sibelius's violin concerto. But there are others of our family, you might say, who have become dear friends. We're welcoming back Mark Markham with Ravel's Left Hand Piano Concerto and a wonderful piece by Cécile Chaminade, unknown, but just great. And Simona Dinnerstein, who I haven't seen in several years now, is going to come back with Brahms Piano Concerto No. 2.
And I
And
think
we
this will be
also,
Simona's third time performing with LSO.
right, she's done Mozart, Philip Glass, a premiere, and now Brahms too. And this is one of many times for me to be able to collaborate with her. And I miss her because I haven't seen her in several years. So I'm very excited about that. But we're also making new friends. And I don't know these people personally, but I know them musically by hearing their recordings. Gigi, an unbelievable guitarist, will be playing a work that was written for her. Britton Renee Collins is going to open our season with the phenomenal percussion concerto, and Nathaniel Sullivan, who's I consider one of our own because he's a graduate of UNL in voice, will be singing an award-winning song cycle that David van Kampen has orchestrated for Lincoln Symphony.
Um, And speaking, you've alluded to this a couple of times. Speaking of getting to know amazing artists, there are some composers on our season that have
Yes.
special connections to LSO, or who are writing very specifically either for LSO or for our soloists. So, can you talk to me just a little bit about the excitement of being able to watch music coming together in real time?
Well, I have to say that years ago, I had this real fear that we in the classical music profession might be turning into dinosaurs.
Mm.
But I really do not feel that way at all anymore. I think that there's a real interest and energy in rediscovering a lot of the older composers that have made their mark in music history. And I think that we are now currently experiencing a very fertile time
Mm.
for composers making names for themselves and writing some, I believe, and which is why I get so excited about performing their works, music that they are composing now that will probably be heard
Will
50, 100.
endure. Yep.
It will absolutely. We are so pleased to be able to claim as our composer in residence, Elena Ruhr. We did a piece of hers as an introduction this past season, and she's writing a world premiere called Tightrope specifically for Lincoln Symphony Orchestra in our upcoming season. I mentioned David van Kampen, excuse me, who has written for LSO in the past. But he's arranging. He wrote an award-winning song cycle that is absolutely beautiful for medium-high voice. I suppose it could be done for male or female voice, but he's chosen baritone. And Nathaniel Sullivan, whom I mentioned earlier, will be premiering that work with LSO. But we also, it's such an exciting time to witness the collaborations that are actually happening in real time. I suppose you'd have to say that we're some of the luckiest people in the world, because it could not be a better time in history to celebrate this art form, symphonic music.
Um, there is one composer. I'm going to move away from our classical realm for a second and onto our pops programming. Probably the most, I would say, famous living composer of our lifetime is John Williams.
I'd
And
agree.
we are doing a third Star Wars concert. So the third in our LSO's own little Star Wars trilogy. Um, and we are performing a ton of Star Wars music. Ed, I will I'll let our audience in on a little secret, which is that Ed watched his first Star Wars movie for the first time this year. And so he watched, which one did you watch?
The
You watched
Empire
The
Strikes.
Empire Strikes Back. And so this year we will introduce you to Return of the Jedi. LSO's concert is called Return of the Maestro,
Yeah.
and it will feature, I mean, there's also in the other movies, it'll feature some music of Ludwig Göransson, but
Right.
it is guaranteed to be a sellout, and it's, I mean, I don't, you could wax
Well,
poetic about John Williams.
absolutely. First of all, if you just consider I guess I should say world or even universe of the music from the Star Wars, not just the trilogy, but the three trilogies and
Mhm.
beyond that. I mean, in a certain sense, there's like it's just a boundless, an unending source of truly great music. John Williams, I agree 2000% with you, is certainly one of our contemporary composers, still living and still composing at 93, I believe he is now. That his music, no question, 50 years, 100, 200 years from now, is going to be known as part of the 20th/21st century bounty of really great, truly great music. I also look at John Williams as a kind of crossover in a certain way, because somewhere along the line, it was classical music on one side and pops music on the other. And I always thought pops means short for popular, but I think classical music is now becoming popular as well. And in a way, there's this wonderful mix. Even our new composers, who are not John Williams, but we're going to follow certainly in part of his footsteps, either through film writing or just innovative new ideas in composition, are also going to benefit from this particular period in quote unquote classical music. And I think it's a,
I was going to say Natalie's piece that she has written for Gigi,
yes,
um, I think is
Natalie,
one such piece that is very classical in nature.
that's right.
But Gigi will be playing an electric guitar. And so she uses, it's like a painter, I think. I'm back to my like museum analogy, who
Yes,
uses different brushstrokes and different ways to create this, like this sound that you can become immersed in.
a
And there,
colorscape, a soundscape, it's absolutely that are at their disposal to have this color, that medium, different things that they're putting on top. And by the way, Gigi starts out on acoustic guitar in
right.
this piece, and all of a sudden ends up in electric guitar. It's a magnetic. I mean, it's magnificent, but it's a magnetic piece of music. It's incredible.
Ed, I won't ask you, but I have been thinking about this out of our 7 classical concerts. If someone were coming for the very first time, which concert you would recommend? And the reason that I say that I won't ask you is because I feel like your program, the way that you've programmed this season, there is a very interesting entry point for every single one of these concerts.
I
And
agree.
you might say, you absolutely, and I've said this to people, you absolutely must hear this Brahms symphony once in your lifetime before you die, or you must hear this Tchaik Pathétique, or, some of these
That's
masterpieces
right.
that are part of our responsibility as an orchestra to carry down through to the next generations of audience members
Serve them.
and
Yes.
performers. Um, but I think that we have an equal responsibility to perform this music that is just electrifyingly exciting and wonderful also.
I
And
agree.
I cannot think of one of these concerts that I could say, maybe this isn't a good one for your first concert, because I think every single one of them, you will walk away transformed. If you, you know, they, s- we call it paying attention, and the price to be paid for this transformative experience is your attention.
Yeah.
So, what we ask of you when you come into the concert hall is that you set aside distractions. This is why we dim the lights, we turn off our phones, we sit, and Ed has selected music that truly each concert can take you on a journey in your mind. And it might be a different journey for each person depending on where you're coming from what your day has been like, what was the conversation you had with your partner in the car on the way there. I mean, all of those things will impact it, but there
It's
is an interior journey that art allows each of us to explore. And this art form in particular just creates, I mean, earlier you said soundscape. I don't wanna go so far as to say um, like a like a movie, soundtrack or
a,
whatever.
a,
I think
a
soundscape is
journey,
a
a
better word,
pictorial. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
because it's
Hmm.
not programmatic necessarily, but it just creates, um, like a fertile place in your imagination to just explore some deeper things. I don't
It's
know,
a com-
you're not able to think about that when you're on the podium, but
well, it's a comforting place, I think,
Mhm.
because it's also a very exciting place. Music has this ability to titillate the senses, all senses, in so many different ways that it sharpens your reality of what you were doing at that specific moment. Things become much more alive, and that's the beauty and the importance and the magic of a live performance.
Ed,
What you
do you as a conductor ever get goosebumps?
Oh, absolutely,
You as a
absolutely.
listener, when you're sitting in an audience, do you get goosebumps?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It goes on either side of the footlights because that's the power actually of fine art in general and music in particular. I believe that what you had said too about, which program would you say to somebody as a first time goer should you go to? The beauty, and this is why I said initially when you had asked me that very first question, I said it's the totality
Mm.
of of the season, that it doesn't matter if you've been a season subscriber for the last 50 years, or if you are a first time attendee of Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra, you will be absolutely swept away. And I think the only there are advantages and disadvantages to be either a first time or a long time.
Mm.
The first time has that exciting experience of hearing it for the very first time and awakening things within the mind and the soul that maybe had been awakened or touched on before in this kind of electric sort of way. But the seasoned concert goer then all of a sudden gets to experience something that they may not have heard live in 20 years, 30
Or
years,
ever, because we have
or
several
ever.
premieres on our season.
Amen.
And so I
Exactly.
think that it really is the best of both worlds.
I
I
also
want
have to say before we go on that what I've absolutely been marveled at over the past several seasons is the excitement that is generated first within the orchestra when we're doing these brand new pieces of music that they've never heard before, they've never seen, they're actually creating as they go along, and the acceptance of our listener, of our audience, of our symphony family, and the appreciation that they show to these composers and these new music and these new music performers, um, with this brand new piece of music that they're not even familiar with. And I
It's a
think
very
that
special relationship.
Yes.
I've always said that an orchestra, in my mind, one of the most special things about it is it's a microcosm of community.
Amen.
And in that same way, we are, like an orchestra gets together on the stage and everyone brings their best that they have and they come together and they create something that's larger than the sum of its parts. And everyone understands that their part is not always the most important part. They are not always the ones that need to be in front, and sometimes they are, and and so there's so many
Right.
lessons to learn about community. And I think that what you're talking about with bringing in a new artist into our family or bringing in the work of a new composer, it's that same thing.
Mhm.
Build a
Yep.
community around it, and I think that it's just as inspiring for the orchestra as it is for the listener to be able to
Mhm.
hear this wonderful music that we're bringing them.
You couldn't
In the
put it better.
2
That's great.
in the 2 minutes that we have left, I just wanna talk about what we're doing to nurture the next generation of audience members and musicians. I will mention that we do have a mini maestros program. And so if you are a mini, I think that we define a mini as anyone under 18,
Oh.
you can come to the welcome table and get a badge and it has your picture on it. And after you come to a certain number of concerts, you get a gift certificate for a free slice of pizza at Yaya's. Um, and it's just one of the ways that we are trying at LSO to make everyone feel welcome. If it's your first time at a symphony concert, if you're an adult and this is your first experience, or if you, like me, are wanting to bring your children to their first concert, or if you're a student and you've never tried this out before and you see that through UNL's Arts for All program, you can get a free student ticket. Um, Tell us some of the things that LSO does, from your perspective to make sure that young people have a wonderful experience and feel welcome to classical music.
Well, I'm very, very proud of what we do in terms of what you have just said. First of all, and we've done this for many years, it's been a tradition and it will remain a tradition. We invite Lincoln's Youth Symphony to sit alongside the professionals in Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra as a side by side concert, which is both um, uh, tremendously entertaining for people in the audience to see these young, aspiring, new people interested in music. They may not all go into music as a profession, but they're interested in it to such an extent that they can actually perform this great music. Clark Potter has done an amazing job with that kind of thing, and we're going to be doing Beethoven Egmont this year. So I'm really excited once again, about the LYS side by side. We have two family concerts. We're welcoming back the River City Puppets with their incredibly talented director, Dylan Shelton. We have our annual Young Artist Competition, which we hold every fall. We select a winner, and that winner not only obtains the cash prize for winning the competition, but also has the opportunity to sit on the lead center stage with Lincoln Symphony Orchestra in a performance of their concerto or a part of their concerto. We bring in Suzuki players for our
If you
annual
want to
Deck the Halls
if you
concert.
want to see the tiniest cello chair that you've ever seen, come to Deck the Halls. Ed, thank you so much
So
for talking about this season, and once again, for just a rundown of every concert and the repertoire that's on the season, you can visit lincolnsymphony.com. Again, we have 7 classical concerts and 2 pops concerts and 2 family concerts. There truly is something for everyone, and we would love to welcome you to your first or to your Edward, how many concerts? 25 years times 10 a year, or your 250th LSO
there you
concert.
go. There you go.
We
I'm
would
so
love
looking forward to it.
we would
Absolutely.
love to have you join us at the Lead Center this next season. Thank you so much.